Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars through the wide window. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he did not care. The ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, and the crew was getting restless. "Captain, we have something," said Communications Officer Ben Hayes from his station. His voice was excited but worried at the same time. Jake walked over to Ben's console. The screen showed waves of light moving up and down. "What is it?" "A distress signal, sir." "Very weak. It's coming from the planet in front of us." Ben pointed to a brown and gray world that filled part of the main screen. Jake looked at the planet. It did not look friendly. Dark clouds covered most of it, and he could see storms raging across the surface. "How far?" 2 hours at current speed." "But Captain, the signal is strange. It's not from any ship we know. The language is completely different." Sergeant Lisa Carter, the ship's medic, came up behind them. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but Jake knew she was tough as steel. "Someone's in trouble down there," she said simply. Jake nodded. He had been a space captain for 15 years, and he had learned to trust his gut. Right now, his gut was telling him that someone needed help badly. "Ben, can you clean up the signal?" Ben worked at his console for several minutes. The sounds that came through the speakers were strange, high-pitched and musical, like singing, but full of fear and pain. "It's definitely a distress call," Ben said. "Whoever is sending it is scared." Lieutenant Kate Williams, Jake's second-in-command, walked onto the bridge. She was tall and strong, with short black hair and sharp green eyes. "Captain, I've been looking at the planet's scan data." "It's not good." Jake turned to her. "What do you mean?" "The planet is crawling with life forms. Big ones. The computer shows at least 50 different species, and most of them are predators. The whole place is like one giant hunting ground." Jake looked back at the planet. It was getting bigger as they got closer. "Any signs of civilization?" "None. Just animals. Very dangerous animals." Ben suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, the signal just got stronger. Whoever is sending it is still alive, but barely." Jake made his decision. He had not become a space captain to run away from people in trouble. "Take us down. Find a safe landing spot near the signal." Kate frowned. "Sir, are you sure?" "We don't know what's down there." "I know someone needs help. That's enough for me." The New Horizon entered the planet's atmosphere 30 minutes later. The ride was rough. The ship shook as it pushed through the thick, stormy air. Through the windows, Jake could see a world of nightmares. The ground was covered with twisted trees that looked like they were made of black metal. Strange creatures moved between them, some as big as trucks, others small and fast. Everything seemed to be hunting something else. "There," said pilot Amy Foster, pointing to a small clearing. "I can put us down there. It's close to the signal." The ship landed with a soft thump. Jake looked around at his crew. There were only 6 of them on this mission. Besides himself, there was Kate, Lisa, Ben, Amy, and engineer Danny Rodriguez. They were good people, and he trusted them completely. "Lisa, Kate, you're with me. The rest of you stay with the ship and keep the engines ready. If something goes wrong, we might need to leave fast." They put on their protective suits and grabbed their weapons. The air outside was breathable, but it smelled wrong. Like blood and fear. The moment they stepped outside, Jake heard the sounds, roars and screams, and the sound of things being torn apart. The planet was alive with violence. "The signal is coming from that direction," Ben said over the radio. "About half a mile through the forest." The 3 humans began walking carefully through the twisted trees. Every shadow could hide a monster. Every sound could mean death. Lisa carried her medical kit, Kate had her rifle ready, and Jake led the way with his scanner. They had been walking for 10 minutes when they heard it, a sound different from all the others. It was soft and scared, like a child crying. "This way," Jake whispered, moving toward the sound. They found her in a small cave behind some fallen rocks. She was tiny, no bigger than a human child, but she was clearly not human. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly in the dark. Her eyes were large and silver, and there were small crystals growing from her forehead and arms. She was hurt, There were cuts on her legs and arms, and she was shaking with fear. When she saw the humans, she pressed herself against the back of the cave and made small, frightened sounds. "It's okay," Lisa said softly, putting down her rifle. "We're here to help." The alien child looked at them with her big silver eyes. She was beautiful in a strange way, but Jake could see she was dying. She was too thin, and her wounds were infected. "Ben, are you getting this?" Jake said into his radio. "Yes, sir." "The signal is definitely coming from her. She has some kind of device on her wrist." Jake looked at the small metal band on the child's arm. It was clearly alien technology, probably some kind of emergency beacon. Lisa was already opening her medical kit. "I need to treat her wounds. She's in bad shape." The alien child watched Lisa approach with terror in her eyes. But when Lisa gently touched her arm, the child seemed to understand that the human woman meant no harm. "Kate, check the area." "Make sure we're safe." Kate nodded and moved to the cave entrance. She came back a minute later with a worried look. "Captain, you need to see this." Outside the cave, scattered around the clearing, were pieces of metal and strange materials. It looked like the remains of a crashed ship. "Her ship?" Jake said. "She's a survivor." They found more pieces as they looked around. The ship had been small, probably a personal transport or escape pod, but it had been destroyed by weapons fire, not a crash. "Someone shot her down," Kate said grimly. Ben's voice came over the radio. "Captain, I'm picking up movement. Big creatures heading your way. You need to get back to the ship now." Jake looked at the alien child. Lisa was working on her wounds, and the child was starting to trust her, but she was too weak to walk. "I'll carry her," Jake said, moving toward the cave. The child saw him coming and made frightened sounds again. But Lisa spoke to her softly. And somehow the child understood. She let Jake pick her up. She was so light, like she was made of air, that they began moving back toward the ship as fast as they could. The sounds of the planet were getting louder. Something was definitely hunting them. "Faster," Kate said, looking back over her shoulder. "I can hear them coming." They ran through the twisted forest, Jake holding the alien child close to his chest. She had stopped making sounds and was looking up at him with those strange silver eyes. For a moment, Jake felt like she was looking into his soul. They reached the new horizon just as the first monsters appeared at the edge of the clearing. They were huge, with black fur and teeth like swords. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. Inside. "Now!" Jake shouted. They ran up the ramp and into the ship. Danny sealed the door just as something heavy crashed against it from outside. "Get us out of here, Amy," Jake ordered. "I can't, sir. The ship's not ready. We need at least 10 minutes to warm up the engines." More crashes came from outside. The monsters were trying to break in. Jake looked down at the alien child in his arms. She was unconscious now, but she was still breathing. Whatever happened. Next, he was not going to let her die, not on his watch. "Everyone to battle stations," he said quietly. "We're going to have to fight." The new horizon shook as something massive hit the side of the ship. Jake Morrison held the alien child tighter and looked around at his crew. They were all scared, but none of them were running. That was why he trusted them. "Danny, how long for the engines?" Jake asked. 8 minutes, Captain. "Maybe 7 if I push them hard." Another crash shook the ship. This time, the lights flickered. Whatever was outside was getting stronger. "Lisa, can you help her?" Jake nodded toward the alien child in his arms. Lisa took the child gently and carried her to the medical bay. The child's eyes opened for a moment, and she looked at Lisa with confusion and fear. But she was too weak to fight. "Then, can you figure out her language?" Jake asked. "I'm trying, sir. The sounds she makes are very different from anything we know, but I think I can build a basic translator." Kate was at the weapons console, checking their defenses. "Captain, we have a problem. The ship's weapons are designed for space combat, not ground fighting. And there are dozens of these creatures. Out there," Jake looked at the security screens. The monsters surrounding their ship were unlike anything he had ever seen. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4. All of them had teeth and claws that could tear through metal. Their eyes glowed with hunger and intelligence. They're smart, he said quietly. Look how they're moving. They're not just attacking randomly. They're testing our defenses. It was true. The creatures were taking turns hitting different parts of the ship, learning where it was weakest. They were working together like a pack of wolves, but these wolves were the size of bears. Sir, Amy called from the pilot's seat. The biggest one is just standing there, watching. It's not attacking at all. Jake looked at the main screen. At the edge of the clearing stood a creature that made all the others look small. It was twice the size of the biggest monster, with armor-like skin and eyes that seemed to burn with fire. It was watching the ship like a general watching a battle. That's their leader, Jake said. It's studying us. The ship shook again, harder this time. Alarms began to sound. Hull breach in Section 3, Danny reported. Small one, but they're getting through, Jake made a decision. Everyone grab weapons. We're going to have to fight them off while the engines warm up. They armed themselves quickly. Jake had his rifle, Kate had her favorite shotgun, and even Ben took a pistol. Danny stayed at the engine controls, and Amy kept the ship ready to fly. The first creature broke through the hull 5 minutes later. It was smaller than the others, but it moved like lightning. It had 6 legs and a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. Kate shot it 3 times before it went down. They're fast, she said, reloading her weapon. More creatures began breaking through. The humans fought hard, but for every monster they killed, 2 more took its place. The aliens seemed to have endless numbers. Captain, Lisa called from the medical bay, you need to see this. Jake ran to the medical bay, fighting off a creature that looked like a spider made of knives. Inside, he found Lisa standing over the alien child, who was now awake and sitting up. She's been trying to tell me something, Lisa said. Watch. The alien child looked at Jake with her big silver eyes. She pointed to herself and made a soft sound. Zara, she said clearly. Her name, Jake said. She's telling us her name, Zara nodded. Then she pointed to the walls of the ship where they could hear the monsters attacking. She made different sounds and her face showed fear and sadness. Ben, are you getting this? Jake called. Yes, sir. I think she's trying to warn us about something. Zara suddenly grabbed Jake's arm. Her touch was warm, and for a moment Jake felt something strange in his mind. Pictures flashed through his thoughts. He saw a peaceful world with crystal cities. He saw Zara playing with other children who looked like her. Then he saw darkness and fire and creatures with red eyes. She's telepathic, Jake said in amazement. She's showing me what happened to her. The pictures in his mind continued. He saw ships attacking Zara's world. He saw her family being killed. He saw her being put in a small ship and sent away. But the worst part was what he saw next. The creatures outside were not from this planet. They had been brought here by the same people who destroyed Zara's world. They were hunting tools designed to track and kill her kind. They're not random monsters, Jake said to his crew. They're hunting her specifically. Her people have some kind of scent or energy that drives these things crazy. As if to prove his point, the attacks on the ship suddenly became more violent. The creatures outside were going insane trying to get to Zara. Captain, Danny called. Engines are ready? We can leave now? Jake looked at his crew. They were all wounded and tired from fighting. It would be easy to just fly away and leave this nightmare planet behind, but then he looked at Zara. She was so small and scared. She had already lost everything. Her family was dead, her world was destroyed, and now she was surrounded by monsters that wanted to kill her. No, Jake said firmly. We're not leaving. Kate stared at him. Sir, what do you mean? If we leave now, we'll just take the problem with us. These creatures will follow her scent into space. They'll track us to other worlds, other people. We have to end this here. Ben looked worried. Captain, there are hundreds of them out there. Maybe thousands. We can't fight them all. Jake looked at Zara again. She was watching him with those silver eyes, and somehow he knew she understood every word they were saying. She was waiting to see what these strange humans would do. We're not running, Jake said. We're going to protect her. That's what humans do. We don't abandon people who need help. Amy turned in her pilot's seat. Sir, with respect, she's not human. We barely know her. Is it worth risking all our lives? Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about his crew, his ship, his duty. Then he thought about Zara, alone and afraid in a universe full of monsters. Yes, he said simply, it is. The ship shook again as something huge hit the hull. Through the windows, they could see the giant leader creature moving closer. It had decided to join the attack. Kate, get everyone to defensive positions. Lisa, keep Zara safe. Ben, work on that translator. I want to talk to her. And then what? Kate asked. Jake looked out at the army of monsters surrounding their ship. Then we figure out how to win a war. Zara suddenly stood up and walked to Jake. She was still weak, but she moved with purpose. She put her small hand on his arm and looked into his eyes. Again, Jake felt her thoughts in his mind. But this time, she was not showing him the past. She was showing him the future. She was showing him what would happen if they stayed and fought. Some of the pictures were dark. He saw his crew fighting desperately against impossible odds. He saw pain and fear and sacrifice, but he also saw hope. He saw humans and aliens working together. He saw friendship across the stars. He saw a future where beings like Zara could live in peace because humans were brave enough to stand up to the monsters. I understand, Jake said to her. We stay, we fight, we win. Zara smiled for the first time since they found her. It was a beautiful smile, full of trust and gratitude. Outside, the monsters roared and attacked with renewed fury. But inside the ship, Jake Morrison and his crew prepared for the battle of their lives. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and far from home, but they were human. And humans never gave up. The giant creature hit the ship like a mountain falling from the sky. Jake Morrison grabbed onto the wall as everything around him shook. The lights went out for 3 seconds, then came back on, but dimmer than before. Hull breach in section 5, Danny Rodriguez shouted from the engine room. The big one is trying to tear through the outer wall. Jake looked at the security screen. The leader creature was bigger than he had thought. It was the size of a house with arms like tree, trunks and claws that could cut through steel. Its eyes burned red in the darkness, and when it roared, the sound made the ship's windows crack. Captain, Kate Williams said, checking her weapons. We can't fight that thing inside the ship. We need to get outside. Outside is suicide, Ben, Hayes said. He was still working on the translator, trying to understand more of Zara's language. There are too many of them. Jake looked at Zara. The alien child was standing next to Lisa Carter, holding the medic's hand. She was still weak, but she was trying to be brave. Her silver eyes were watching the security screens, and Jake could see she was scared. Zara, Jake said gently, can you tell us about these creatures? How do we fight them? Zara looked at him for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes and put her hand on his arm. Again, Jake felt her thoughts in his mind. The pictures she showed him were not good. The creatures were called shadow beasts, and they were nearly impossible to kill. They had been created by an evil race called the Devourers, who used them to hunt down and destroy other species. The shadow beasts were smart, fast, and they got stronger when they smelled fear, but Zara showed him something else. The shadow beasts had one weakness. They were controlled by their leader, the giant creature outside. If the leader died, the others would become confused and fight each other instead of working together. We have to kill the big one, Jake said. To his crew, it's the only way. How? Amy Foster asked from the pilot's seat. Our weapons barely hurt the small ones. How are we supposed to kill something that big? Danny's voice came over the radio. Captain, I have an idea, but it's crazy. Tell me, the ship's power core. If we overload it, we can create an explosion big enough to take out the leader. But someone would have to get close enough to plant the device. Kate shook her head. That's suicide. The moment we step outside, they'll tear us apart. Zara suddenly let go of Lisa's hand and walked to the weapons locker. She was still weak, but she moved with purpose. She picked up a small energy pistol and checked to see if it was loaded. What are you doing? Lisa asked. Zara looked at all of them. then pointed to herself and then to the door. Her meaning was clear. She wanted to go outside. "No," Jake said, firmly. "Absolutely not. You're just a child." Zara shook her head and put her hand on Jake's arm again. This time, the pictures she showed him were different. She showed him her people's abilities. They could move without making sound. They could hide in shadows. And most importantly, they could make the shadow beasts confused for a short time using their telepathic powers. "She wants to distract them," Jake said. "Give us time to plant." "The bomb. It's too dangerous," Lisa said. "She's already hurt. She won't survive out there." Zara looked at Lisa with her big silver eyes. When she spoke, her voice was soft but determined. "Help, friends. Pay debt." Ben looked up from his translator. "She's saying she owes us for saving her life. She wants to help." The ship shook again. This time, they heard the sound of metal tearing. The leader creature was breaking through the hull. "We're running out of time," Kate said. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now." Jake looked at each member of his crew. They were all scared, but they were all ready to fight. Even Zara, who was barely more than a child and had already lost everything, was ready to risk her life for them. "All right," Jake said. "Here's the plan. Danny, you prepare the bomb. Kate and I will create a distraction at the front of the ship. Amy, you keep the engines ready. Lisa, you stay with Zara and watch for our signal." "What signal?" Lisa asked. "You'll know it when you see it." They spent the next 10 minutes preparing. Danny worked on the bomb while Kate and Jake gathered every weapon they could find. Amy ran through the ship's systems, making sure they could escape quickly once the leader was dead. Zara sat with Lisa, but she was not resting. She was concentrating, preparing to use her telepathic abilities. Jake could feel her mental energy growing stronger, like a storm building in the distance. "Ready?" Jake asked his crew. They all nodded. Even Zara, who was now holding the energy, pistol-like she knew how to use it. Jake opened the ship's front door and stepped outside. The moment his feet touched the ground, every shadow beast in the clearing turned to look at him. There were at least 50 of them, all with glowing red eyes and teeth like knives. "Come on, you ugly monsters," Jake shouted, firing his rifle at the nearest creature. "Let's see what you've got." The shadow beasts attacked like a black wave. Jake and Kate fought side by side, their weapons lighting up the darkness. They killed 5 creatures, then 10, then 15. But more kept coming. "Now, Zara," Jake shouted. The alien child stepped out of the ship behind them. She was small and fragile-looking, but when she raised her hand, something amazing happened. The shadow beasts stopped attacking. They looked around in confusion, as if they had forgotten what they were doing. "Go!" Jake yelled to Danny. The engineer ran toward the leader creature carrying the bomb. The giant monster was still trying to tear through the ship's hull, but it sensed Danny approaching and turned to face him. Danny was fast, but the leader was faster. It reached out with one massive claw and grabbed the engineer around the waist. Danny screamed as the creature lifted him into the air. "Danny!" Kate shouted, running toward the leader, but she was too far away. The leader creature was about to crush Danny in its grip. That was when Zara did something incredible. She closed her eyes and concentrated harder than she had ever concentrated before. Jake felt her mental energy explode outward like a bomb. The leader creature suddenly froze. Its eyes went from red to silver, and it made a sound like it was in pain. For just a moment, it loosened its grip on Danny. It was enough. Danny activated the bomb and threw it at the creature's chest. The device stuck to the leader's armor-like skin and began to beep. "Everyone down!" Danny shouted as the leader creature dropped him. Jake grabbed Zara and pulled her behind a large rock. Kate and Lisa dove for cover behind the ship. Amy was already inside, ready to start the engines. The explosion was bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. It lit up the night sky like a second sun and sent a shockwave that knocked everyone to the ground. When the light faded, the leader creature was gone. There was nothing left but a smoking crater where it had been standing, but the best part was, what happened next? The shadow beasts, suddenly free from their leader's control, began to attack each other. They were confused and angry, and without the leader to guide them, they turned on their own kind. It worked, Kate said in amazement. They're fighting each other. Jake looked at Zara, who was lying on the ground next to him. She was unconscious, but she was still breathing. Using her telepathic powers so strongly had drained all her energy. "Lisa!" Jake called. "Help her." As Lisa worked to revive Zara, Jake watched the shadow beasts tear each other apart. In less than an hour, they had killed most of their own kind. The few survivors ran away into the forest, no longer interested in hunting anyone. The nightmare was over. They had won? Zara's eyes opened slowly. She was lying on a soft bed in the ship's medical bay, with Lisa Carter sitting beside her. The alien child tried to sit up, but her body was too weak. "Easy," Lisa said gently. "You use too much energy. You need to rest." Zara looked around the medical bay with confusion. The last thing she remembered was the explosion and the bright light. "Shadow beasts?" she asked in her soft voice. "Gone," Lisa said with a smile. "You helped us destroy them." "You were very brave." Captain Jake Morrison walked into the medical bay. He had bandages on his arms and a cut on his face, but he was smiling. "How is she?" "She'd be fine," Lisa said. "But she needs food and rest. She's been through too much." Jake sat down next to Zara's bed. "Thank you," he said to her. "Without your help, we would all be dead." Zara looked at him with her big silver eyes. "Friends help friends," she said slowly. Her English was getting better. "Yes," Jake said. "That's exactly right." Ben Hayes came into the medical bay carrying his translator device. "Captain, I've been working on her language. I think I can understand most of what she says now." Jake nodded. "Good. We need to know where she comes from and where she wants to go." Ben sat down and activated the translator. He spoke to Zara in her own language, and she responded eagerly. It was the first time in weeks that she had been able to talk to someone who understood her. The conversation went on for several minutes. Zara's voice became sad when she talked about her family and her destroyed world. But she also seemed hopeful when she talked about the humans who had saved her. "What is she saying?" Jake asked. Ben looked troubled. "Her people are called the Ethereals. They lived on a peaceful world called Lumina. But 3 months ago, a race called the Devourers attacked. They destroyed everything and killed almost everyone." "Almost everyone?" "Zara thinks she might be the last of her kind. Her parents put her in an escape pod before they were killed. The pod was supposed to take her to a safe world, but it was damaged in the attack. She's been drifting through space ever since." Jake felt a heavy weight in his chest. He looked at Zara, who was so small and young. To lose everything at her age was unthinkable. "Does she have anywhere to go?" he asked. Ben spoke to Zara again. Her response was short and sad. "No," Ben said. "She has no family left, no home. She's completely alone." Lisa put her hand on Zara's shoulder. "Not alone," she said firmly. "She has us now." Jake looked at his crew. They had all grown attached to the alien child during their short time together. She had risked her life to help them, and they would not abandon her now. "Can we take her back to Earth?" Amy Foster asked. She had been listening from the doorway. "It's not that simple," Jake said. "Earth has strict rules about alien contact. We would need permission from the government, and that could take months." Kate Williams joined the conversation. "What about the outer colonies?" "They're more flexible about aliens," Jake thought about it. The outer colonies were human settlements on the edge of known space. They were far from Earth and had their own laws. Some of them welcomed aliens as long as they were peaceful. "New Haven," he said finally. "It's a colony world about 2 weeks from here. They have a good relationship with other species." Ben translated for Zara. She listened carefully, then asked several questions. "She wants to know if she can learn to be useful," Ben said. "She doesn't want to be a burden," Jake smiled. "Tell her she's already useful. Her telepathic abilities saved our lives." As Ben translated, Zara's face lit up with hope. For the first time since they found her, she looked like she believed she had a future. "Captain," Danny Rodriguez said, entering the medical bay. "I've finished repairing the ship." We're ready to leave whenever you are. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all hurt and tired, but they were all alive. They had faced impossible odds and won. Most importantly, they had saved an innocent life. Set course for New Haven, he said. Best speed. The next 2 weeks were the most interesting of Jake's career. Zara recovered quickly, and soon she was exploring every part of the ship. She was curious about everything, asking questions about human technology and culture. Ben worked with her every day, teaching her more English and learning about her people. She told them about the Ethereal's peaceful society, their beautiful crystal cities, and their deep connection to nature. My people never fought wars, she said one day. We did not understand evil until the Devourers came. Lisa taught Zara about human medicine and showed her how to help treat injuries. The alien child was a fast learner, and she seemed to have a natural gift for healing. Kate showed Zara how to use the ship's weapons, though she hoped the child would never need to fight again. Zara was surprisingly good with energy weapons, her telepathic abilities helping her aim better than most humans. Amy taught Zara about piloting, and Danny showed her how the ship's engines worked. Zara absorbed everything like a sponge, eager to learn and contribute, but it was Jake who spent the most time with her. He found himself becoming protective of the alien child, almost like a father. He told her stories about Earth and human history, and she told him about her memories of Lumina. You miss your parents, Jake said one evening as they looked out at the stars together. Yes, Zara said sadly, but I know they would be happy. They would like you and your crew. You are good people. What will you do on New Haven? Jake asked. Zara was quiet for a long moment. I will learn. I will grow strong, and someday I will help others like you helped me. Jake smiled. I think you'll do great things, Zara. Your people would be proud. As they got closer to New Haven, Jake began to worry about leaving Zara behind. She had become part of their family, and he knew his crew felt the same way. Captain, Kate said, one morning, have you thought about what happens after we drop her off? What do you mean? I mean, what if we don't drop her off? What if she stays with us? Jake looked at Kate in surprise. Are you serious? Dead serious. She's smart, she's brave, and she's already proven she can be useful. Plus, she has nowhere else to go. Lisa overheard the conversation and joined them. I agree, she could be our translator and cultural advisor. No one else in the galaxy has her combination of telepathic abilities and knowledge of different species. Ben nodded enthusiastically. And she's learning our technology faster than anyone I've ever seen. She could be a real asset to the crew. And Danny agreed. Even the usually practical Amy had grown fond of the alien child. But she's just a kid, Jake said. This is a dangerous job. We face pirates, hostile aliens, unknown worlds. Is it fair to ask her to risk her life? She's already risked her life for us, Kate pointed out. And she's not just a kid anymore. She's a survivor. She's been through things that would break most adults. Jake thought about it. He looked at Zara, who was working with Ben on the translator. She was laughing at something Ben had said, and for a moment she looked like any normal child, but Jake knew better. Behind those silver eyes was a strength that few beings possessed. We'll ask her, Jake decided. If she wants to stay with us, she can. If she wants to go to New Haven, we'll support that too. When they asked Zara what she wanted, her answer was immediate and certain. I want to stay with my family, she said, looking at each of them in turn. You saved me. Now I want to help you save others. Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. They had started this mission as a crew of 6 humans. Now they were a family of 7, with one very special alien who had proven that courage and compassion could overcome any monster. 6 months had passed since the battle on the monster planet. The New Horizon was now flying through the Andromeda trade route, carrying supplies to the outer colonies. But this mission was different from all the others. This time they had Zara. Captain. Jake Morrison watched from the bridge as Zara worked with Ben Hayes at the communications station. She was wearing a small blue uniform that Lisa had made for her, and she looked like she belonged there. Her English was now perfect, and she had learned to use human technology better than some humans. Captain, Zara said, looking up from her work. I'm receiving a distress signal from the Kepler system. It's very weak, but someone is asking for help. Jake walked over to their station. What kind of signal? It's from a cargo ship called the Star Merchant. They say they're under attack by pirates. Zara's silver eyes were serious. There are civilians on board, including children. Jake felt that familiar feeling in his chest. Someone was in trouble and they needed help. How far away are they? 4 hours at full speed, Amy Foster said from the pilot's seat. But Captain, we're not a military ship. We don't have heavy weapons. We have something better, Jake said, looking at Zara. We have experience fighting monsters. Kate Williams checked their weapons inventory. We have enough supplies for a rescue mission, but these are space pirates, not wild animals. They'll be armed and dangerous. Zara stood up from her station. Pirates took my family from me. I will not let them take someone else's family. Jake looked at his crew. They had all changed since rescuing Zara. They were more confident, more united. They had learned that sometimes the right thing to do was also the dangerous thing to do. All right, Jake said. We're going to help them. But we do this smart. Zara, what can you tell us about the pirates? Zara closed her eyes and concentrated. Her telepathic abilities had grown stronger over the past few months. She could now sense thoughts and emotions from much farther away. There are 12 pirates, she said. They have taken control of the cargo ship. The crew is locked in the storage bay, and the pirates are looking for something valuable. What kind of something? Danny Rodriguez asked. Medicine, Zara said, opening her eyes. The cargo ship is carrying medical supplies to a colony that has a disease outbreak. The pirates want to steal the medicine and sell it. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Pirates who stole medicine from sick people were the worst kind of criminals. Can you sense anything else? He asked Zara. The pirate captain is very cruel. He enjoys hurting people. The other pirates are scared of him, but they follow him because he pays them well. Lisa Carter was preparing her medical kit. How many? Civilians are on the cargo ship? 23, Zara said, including 5 children. They're all very frightened. Jake made his decision. We're going to save them. Here's the plan. We approach the cargo ship like we're traders looking to buy something. Once we're close enough, we board their ship and take out the pirates. What? About me? Zara asked. I want to help. Jake looked at the alien child who had become like a daughter to him. She was still young, but she had proven her courage many times over the past 6 months. You'll be our secret weapon, he said. Stay hidden until we need you. Then use your abilities to confuse the pirates like you did with the shadow beasts. 2 hours later, they were approaching the cargo ship. It was a large vessel designed to carry supplies between the colonies, but Jake could see that it had been damaged in the pirate attack. Several holes in the hull showed where the pirates had used weapons to force their way inside. This is the merchant ship Blue Runner, Jake said into the radio using a false name. We heard you might have some cargo for sale. The response came back quickly. Blue Runner, this is Captain Rex of the Star Merchant. Come aboard. We have many things you might want to buy. Jake could hear the smugness in the pirate captain's voice. The man thought he was about to cheat another trader. Be ready, Jake told his crew as they approached the docking bay. Remember, there are innocent people on that ship. Don't take any chances. They docked with the cargo ship and entered through the main airlock. The first thing Jake noticed was the smell of fear and sweat. The pirates had been on this ship for hours and they were getting impatient. 3 pirates met them at the airlock. They were rough-looking men with scars and weapons. Their leader was a tall man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Welcome to my ship, the pirate captain said. I'm Captain Rex. What are you looking to buy? Medical supplies? Jake said calmly. We heard you might have some. Captain Rex laughed. Medical supplies are very expensive these days. Especially the good stuff. Follow me. As they walked through the ship, Jake counted the pirates he could see. There were 8 of them visible, which meant 4 more were probably guarding the prisoners. All of them were armed with energy weapons and looked like they knew how to Use them. Here's what we have, Captain Rex said, leading them to the cargo bay. The finest medical supplies in the galaxy. Antivirus drugs, surgical equipment, emergency medicines. All stolen fresh from a medical convoy. Jake felt sick. These supplies were meant to save lives, and this monster was treating them like treasure. Very nice, Jake said, pretending to be interested. What's your price? For you, my friend, a special deal? 1,000,000 credits for the whole lot. That's expensive, Kate said, playing her part. Are you sure it's worth that much? While Jake and Kate negotiated with the pirates, Ben and Amy quietly moved to different positions around the cargo bay. Danny stayed near the entrance, ready to block any escape routes. Where are the original crew members? Jake asked casually. Captain Rex smiled coldly. They're resting in the storage bay. Don't worry about them. They won't be bothering us. That was the signal Jake had been waiting for. He grabbed his weapon and pointed it at Captain Rex. Nobody. Move, we're taking this ship. The pirates reached for their weapons, but Jake's crew was ready. A firefight began immediately. Energy bolts flew across the cargo bay as both sides took cover behind the medical crates. Zara, now! Jake shouted into his radio. The alien child appeared at the entrance to the cargo bay. She closed her eyes and concentrated, sending her telepathic power out like a wave. The pirates suddenly stopped shooting and looked around in confusion. What's happening? One of them shouted. I can't think straight. It's some kind of mind trick. Captain Rex yelled, trying to fight off Zara's influence. Find the source. But Jake and his crew were already moving. With the pirates confused and disoriented, it was easy to disarm them. Within minutes, all 8 pirates in the cargo bay were captured. Ben, Amy, find the other 4 pirates, Jake ordered. Kate, help me free the prisoners. They found the cargo ship's crew and passengers locked in a small storage room. 23 people, including 5 frightened children, were huddled together in the darkness. It's okay, Lisa said gently as she helped them out. You're safe. Now, the pirates are gone. One of the children, a little girl about Zara's age, looked up at Jake with tears in her eyes. Are you going to hurt us too? Jake knelt down to her level. No, sweetheart, we're here to help. My name is Jake, and these are my friends. We're going to take you somewhere safe. The little girl looked at Zara, who was standing nearby. What? Is she? She's my daughter, Jake said without hesitation. And she's the bravest person I know. Zara smiled at being called Jake's daughter. It was the first time he had said it out loud, but she had felt like part of his family for months. Over. The next few hours, they helped repair the cargo ship and made sure the medical supplies reached their destination. The colony's disease outbreak was stopped, and dozens of lives were saved. As they prepared to leave, the captain of the cargo ship thanked them personally. You saved us all, he said. How can we ever repay you? Jake looked at his crew and at Zara, who was helping Lisa treat some of the injured passengers. And just remember that there are good people in the galaxy. People who will help when others are in trouble. Later, as the New Horizon flew away from the cargo ship, Jake stood on the bridge with Zara beside him. They watched the stars together. Just like they had so many times before. Are you happy? Jake asked her. Zara looked up at him with her silver eyes. Yes, I have a family now. I have a purpose. And I know that no matter what monsters we face, we'll face them together. Jake put his hand on her shoulder. That's right, we're a team. Humans and aliens working together to make the galaxy a better place. And, Zara added with a smile, we never abandon anyone who needs help. Jake laughed. That's the most human thing you've ever said. As the New Horizon continued its journey through the stars, Jake Morrison and his crew knew they had found something special. They had found a family that crossed species lines, a bond that was stronger than any monster they might face, and in the darkness of space, where danger lurked around every corner, they carried with them the greatest weapon of all, hope.